On the 7th of September 2019, I had the pleasure of watching IQ premiering their new album, Resistance. This is their 11th studio album and the first they've released since I became a fan. And since buying the album, I've listened to it through 5 times so far, and have no signs of slowing down or getting bored. So, as you can imagine, I've got a bit to talk about. As the album has yet to be released, I can't exactly use it for background music, so instead I'm going to be using songs from The Road of Bones. I'm going to go through the album song by song, and I'm going to start with the first song on the album, A Missile. The immediate thought from hearing this for the first time was, this sounds like From the Outside In. The likeness is very clear, and it comes at you hard and fast, like a shark with legs, utterly relentless. Although it follows the hard-hitting first song formula that IQ has mastered with From the Outside In, Missile still has plenty of personality, and while I don't think it's ever going to become my favourite IQ song, I don't think I'm going to get bored with it ever. Song 2 is Rise. This starts a bit slower, and then kicks you right in the nads with a pounding guitar with an intense drums. But the real unique part of this song are the effects on Peter Nichols' voice in the second half of the song. It makes him sound almost otherworldly, and it's something I feel they really took focus on in this album. They really put a lot of work into making sure that Nichols sounded interesting, and as a result, Rise is a roller coaster of sounds that ends by slowly flowing into the next song, Stay Down, a name that Nichols seems to think is deeply funny. Incidentally, he does a killer Ray Winston impression. Stay Down starts off quiet and builds slowly over the course of 5 minutes, before exploding with the force of a sheep stuffed with dynamite. When IQ played it live, I must admit I thought it would last 20 minutes, because the build-up and how generally their music is, and I think in any other IQ album it might have. However, they've made a very clear effort to keep songs on this one of Resistance concise, and as a result, the album feels very clean. There's no bloat here, there's nothing unnecessary, and Stay Down, of course, is only 8 minutes, as opposed to 18. I have to mention now my biggest complaint with the entire album. The transition from Stay Down to Alempandria is not lined up perfectly. This hurts what little remains of my soul so much I had to listen to Blackwater Park on repeat for an hour straight. It would have been longer, but I can't stay mad at a song that incorporates ticks. Anyway, moving on to the song Alempandria, this feels like a bit more of a complete version of 1312 Overture from The Road of Bones. I always thought that 1312 Overture felt like a neat idea that just was sort of slapped onto the album because they had a bit of space left over. Alempandria, however, is very different. It belongs here, despite being the shortest song on the album, and acts as a great interlude before we get to Shallow Bay. If Alempandria is a complete 1312 Overture, then Shallow Bay is a complete hardcore, which I must say I'm very happy about, because hardcore to me always felt like an unfinished masterpiece, and Shallow Bay is good enough to be called its successor. Really powerful rolling sound, and the drum and bass on this whole album is truly brilliant. Fantastically recorded, fantastically played, and it really shines through here. Now onto the penultimate track for disc 1, if anything. There's not a whole lot to say here. It's the most gentle song on the album, and I must say it's probably the weakest. It's still a good song, but there's nothing mind-blowing here. It's just quite a formulaic IQ song. It's 6 minutes long. It's not going to surprise you with something totally out of blue, and then it does, because it ends with an extremely weird instrumental piece that sounds almost circus act-ish. This flows directly into the final song on disc 1, For Another Lifetime, starting out with a strange, almost accordion-sounding bit of music that is actually just 2 keyboards being played simultaneously. This does a super job of setting the mood. It's easily the most interesting IQ opening ever. There is so much atmosphere building in this first 4 minutes. From there, the song kicks into gear in a very IQ-ish fashion. It's quite a standard IQ long final song, but it is IQ's standard long final song at its best. Every single thing here is played with impact. There's a big sense of purpose, and it really hits home. There's a real sense of finality about this. It's funny considering it's only the halfway point. And the biggest compliment I can give to the song is it reminds me a great deal of Until the End, which I think is one of the best songs ever written. Now on to disc 2, and The Great Spirit Way. Firstly, what an intro. Right here is how you introduce a song. Beautiful build-up, fantastic drum playing here, and it builds smoothly into a glorious, free-flowing verse section. I must admit, the lyrics are a bit weak. Pete Nichols is one of my favourite lyricists of all time, but here I think he gets a bit overzealous and a bit too fantastical, particularly around minute 8. I think this particular line is honestly just weak. It's not good at all, and it's a shame, because the rest of the song is very, very good. Overall, it reminds me a great deal of Dream Theater's Octavarium. It's a bit long-winded, it's a bit cheesy, but musically it's utterly stunning, and I can feel myself liking the song more every time I hear it. And, again, it flows straight into the next song, Fire and Security. This is a shotgun of a song. You might not even notice that it's been played. The transitions are just so smooth from one song to the next. I'm still not sure where it stops and Perfect Space starts. Just at some point that all of the music's gone gentle and I'm listening to a different song. As for how I feel about that song, Perfect Space starts off quite gentle and builds in a very IQ-ish way. Again, this is not their best song. I think that it reminds me a great deal of Constellations. It has a lot of potential, but never really seems to know where it wants to go. Ultimately, I call this song solid, but there's nothing here that really sets it apart or makes it special. Finally, we've reached the last song, Fallout. Now, the song that made me fall in love with IQ is Without Walls, and I cannot tell you how happy I am to say that Fallout is every bit as epic of a journey as Without Walls is. It has that same wandering, unsure feeling like the song knows where it's going, but not whether it's ever going to make it there. This isn't the snappy, focused, big message song that The Harvest of Souls or The Seventh House is. It really is there just as this great big space prog extravaganza, and I love it. It always moves forward. And at the moment, I must say, Fallout gets my vote for best song on the album. It all works. It all makes sense. This is where the album was always leading. It's rare for an album to give me a feeling of closure this complete. To summarise, the album is well made, well played, and well recorded. While it does not have the number of absolute masterpieces that The Road of Bones has, consistency-wise, it tops even that. Every song has its place on the album, it flows about as well as any I've ever heard, and while it did take several listens, I can now say this might just be IQ's best work to date. It's got everything needed for an album to be called great, and there's just enough weirdness, particularly in the keyboards, that makes it stand out from their other work. If you're an IQ fan, you're most likely already going to buy it, or already have, but if you've not heard much of their stuff, or none of their stuff, I can say that this album is absolutely worth your time, especially if you're a fan of progressive music. If you've already called Fear Inoculum Album of the Year, you might want to hold your judgment until you've heard Resistance. It really is that good. To IQ's members, I tip my Stephen Wilson hat to you. Well done indeed. Before I end, I just want to say this is my first public review, so any and all feedback is very, very welcome. I'm Razal Khan. See you later.